The development studio responsible for EA's enchanting first-person shooter game, the newly released Immortals of Aveum, has undergone a very significant downsizing, with approximately 40 employees reportedly losing their jobs. That is about half of their studio. Now, this action came in the wake of disappointing sales results, marking yet another instance of workforce reductions in the gaming industry this year. Immortals of Aveum was developed by Ascendant Studios and published by EA as an EA original. It was initially marketed as a high-budget FPS title featuring imaginative, magical combat instead of conventional firearms. It was originally slated for a July release this year, but the game's launch was postponed until late August, so it was just released about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and that placed it in direct competition with the highly anticipated releases of Starfield and Armored Core 6, and even kind of Baldur's Gate 3. Concerns arose that Immortals of Aveum might be overshadowed by these much larger, more hyped titles from Bethesda and From Software, and further, the game's PC version suffered from performance issues, which massively hindered gameplay for even those with very powerful gaming setups. And it now appears that the game failed to meet sales expectations, leading Ascendant Studios to implement staff layoffs as a cost-cutting measure. Ascendant Studios initiated layoffs today, which, like I said, affected approximately 40 employees. That's about half of their studio. Their CEO, Brett Robbins, delivered the news during a company meeting. So yeah, before today, the company had employed around 80 to 100 people, and now they're down to about 40 or 50. One former employee stated that the underwhelming sales of Immortals of Aveum was cited as the primary reason for the downsizing. The studio's workforce was reportedly informed that these measures were necessary for the company's survival. What's kind of interesting is that the CEO, Brett Robbins, he posted something today that basically said, yeah, they did lay off roughly 45% of their staff. And then he also expressed pride in the accomplishments of the independent development team. He highlighted their creation of a new AAA studio, a new intellectual property, and utilization of new technology in a challenging industry climate. I don't know, kind of interesting to brag about that after you just laid off half of your staff. And he assured that the studio would continue to work diligently on the game and the Immortals of Aveum IP with plans for future updates and offerings. But apparently, Immortals of Aveum has now earned the title as one of EA's poorest performing EA original games. This layoff event followed several other smaller workforce reductions shortly after the game's launch. And yeah, unfortunately, this round of layoffs is not an isolated incident for this year. Just to name a few, so far in 2023, companies that have experienced layoffs are Unity, which I talked about yesterday actually, Ubisoft, Take-Two, Riot Games, Meta, and unfortunately a lot of others. It is too bad. It's definitely never a good thing whenever there are layoffs. I don't want to see people lose their jobs. It's definitely sad, especially in something that is growing like the video game industry. It's unfortunate, but a reality that layoffs do still occur. I hadn't really heard of Immortals of Aveum until today. I did look it up. It actually does look pretty cool. It is unfortunate that it did perform poorly, and I don't know. Yeah, maybe EA isn't to blame for this one, but I kind of love to hate on EA, so I don't know. Maybe I'll just blame EA. I mean, at the end of the day, the layoffs, well, that definitely came from, their decision making, so I guess I can kind of blame them. I certainly hope they can make the Immortals of Aveum IP work in the long run, and to the roughly 40 people that did get laid off, I definitely wish them the best. Hopefully you find future employment that is not with EA.